done.
Hooray!
Today's episode, like really, probably, certainly, yeah, that exactly. Crutch words. What are crutch words? Why do we use them? And how can we stop using them? I myself, I am guilty as charged, guilty as charged, guilty as charged. If you know me, if you're one of my friends, then you know that I'm always saying, you know what I mean? That's one of my biggest crutch words is, you know what I mean? Along with, of course, and you know. So I'm going to try to make a concerted effort, a really, really genuine effort to not say those words as much. And there's a few reasons why I want to try to make this change. I'll tell you a short story. And I think it's possible. I think I'll be able to do it. And I'll tell you why, because there was something that happened to me a long time ago. I used to smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes for years and years and years. And one day I took my youngest son, to Universal Studios. And we had a great time. And when we came back to the car, I wanted to stand outside and smoke a cigarette. Like a lot of us do that have kids. We don't want to smoke around our kids, so we'll stand outside of our vehicles and smoke. So I was doing that. My son, he looked right at me and he said, "You know, Daddy, you should stop smoking cigarettes." And for some reason, that time it stuck. Now, I had told myself I wanted to stop smoking cigarettes for years. Other people told me I should stop smoking cigarettes for years. My parents, for years and years and years. But for some reason, at that moment, something resonated with me, and immediately there was a guy walking by me, and I said, "Hey, man, do you smoke cigarettes?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Here's a brand new pack of Marlboro Lights. You can have them." "Really, man?" "Yeah, they're yours." And I went after that to Walgreens. Not Walgreens. I went to CVS. And I bought a series of Step 2 nicotine patches, transdermal nicotine patches. And I put one on my shoulder. And I guess 3 days. You're supposed to wear one for 24 hours and take it off and switch it out. I wore one for 48 hours. And then I took it off and switched it out. And I did that because one day I was fine. But then the next day I would have to fight a little bit to stop myself from wanting to smoke cigarettes. So what my son said to me resonated with me so much that it took me 3 patches to quit smoking cigarettes, and that was 7 years ago. But something happened, like I said. There was a switch. There was something that went off inside of me that made it a necessary thing for me to change the way that I was thinking. It made it necessary for me to change my mode of thinking, really. Crutch word, really, the word really. And I'll get to that also. There's a bunch of crutch words that we all use every day. We're all guilty. And it doesn't make you a bad person or anything. But let me finish my story. Let me close my story really fast. But that was 7 years ago, and I changed the way that I thought in order to make that happen. I made a hard change. And it was a change in my ideology. And the ideology was, Why am I afraid to stop doing something that's killing me? And immediately something clicked in my brain and I never wanted to smoke again. And I made it so, and it was a must, and it happened, and it only took 3 days. It didn't take the full 2 weeks that it usually takes when you put on transdermal nicotine patches. Usually takes you about, in all, a month and a half. You're supposed to wear step 1 for 2 weeks, and step 2 for 2 weeks, and then step 3 for 2 weeks. But I was able to do it with 3 step 2 patches in 6 days. Why? And it's because, like I said, I changed the way that I thought. Now, crutch words. Crutch words. What is a crutch word? Okay, a crutch word is a word that we use too much. A word that we say or have said to get us to the next part of our conversation, I suppose. Or a word that we've relied on to help us maintain control of the conversation that we're having. Words like and you know. You know. And also. I'm guilty of that. I say that a lot. Go back and listen to some of my other podcasts. As a matter of fact, go back and listen to my last podcast. Chocked full of and you know, all over it. And my wife, the reason I'm doing this episode is because my wife actually brought it up. Me and my producer and my best friend, we've all talked about it. And it's something that doesn't necessarily hurt me, but it does at the same time, because the first thing that happens is when you use a lot of filler words, when you use a lot of words, a lot of ums, uhs, really, literally, when you do that a lot, every third word is a crutch word, people disengage from you. They disengage from you, and you become less effective at holding your audience or maintaining the conversation that you're having. There's many negatives. That was it. Well, that was another one. 3 in a row. Many. One's good enough. 2 more, those are crutches. Those are filler words. And that is what I aim to try and stop. It's just, I would rather not talk. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that they say will help you get rid of it. Just take your time for one and pause. So we think it's an eternity, and it does feel like an eternity. And I read something that said the reason it feels like that is because we think a hell of a lot faster than we talk. And we're reaching for something to fill in those gaps. So we come up with crutch words. This podcast is being brought to you by Poignant Pause. There will be a lot of poignant pauses in this podcast. And just a lot of a lot of time to help me articulate really what I want to say, because I want people to stay engaged. That's the reason I started this podcast, was to help people to be informative and to stay engaged. So today, I will be talking about ways, what they are first, what crutch words are first, and ways that we can do and ways that we can get rid of these crutch words. in our vocabularies, or stop using these words so frequently, because all words have their place. Believe it or not, all words have their place. But some words we don't need to keep saying over and over and over again. Like it becomes run down or mundane. It becomes less genuine. People don't take you as seriously. They question your intelligence. They really do. People question your intelligence. So, what can we do? What's the first thing that we can do to stop with the crutch words, stop with the filler words? I'm new to radio, but I got a lot of friends that are in radio, and the first thing that they always tell me, especially the ones that say that they have the problem with the uhs, and you knows, they tell me is to write it down and put it in front of you. So I have a pen here and some paper, and I am going to write down, don't say That's number one. Another piece of paper, I'm going to put down, don't say and don't say you know what I mean. Okay. Those are my 3 famous crutch words. You know what I mean? There was one time I went to the studio when I believe it was at the Vibe Studios that that Gentry had the studio at, and I was trying to do maybe a show with a friend of mine called the Producers Lounge, and we were introducing ourselves. And everybody's going around, yeah, hi, my name is this, da-da-da-da-da, so on and so on. And it got to me, and I said, hey, what's up, folks? My name is, Deron. So, needless to say, that was a huge laugh for everyone. Everyone. But it was really embarrassing to me. After I sat down and thought about it, it was really embarrassing to me. And it makes me feel like I'm empty-headed, like I don't have enough vocabulary to carry on a conversation, or I don't have enough brain cells to think the shit out. So I want to stop it. So that's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is write down these little things. Well, actually, the first thing I did, see, that was another one. Actually, the first thing I did was write down, was slow down and take some pauses. I've been taking pauses, as you can. And that's why this week, again, we have suspended the actual format of the show, if you will. I've dropped a few segments and a few parts in efforts to clean up my podcast a little bit. Try and give you some better content. Try and give you some more engaged content, to give you something that you can actually talk about, something that you can actually remember. I used the word actually twice. I should turn this into a drinking game, is really what I should do. Listen, That really should be a drinking game. If you want to get drunk, I'll tell you straight like this right now. Go to my last podcast and press play. And every time I say, you know, or you know what I mean, yeah, or you know what I mean, drink. You won't make it 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You won't make it. You won't make it. I promise you. So I want to clean it up. I want to be a little more articulate. Articulate. Have some articulation. Articulationes. Because I'm serious. I'm a comedian. There's a difference, though. The difference with doing stand-up comedy and doing a podcast or just speaking to a person, because we use crutch words every day when we speak to our friends. Every day. Everybody does. We all have our own words. Our friends have words that mock us because we say them so much. But I want to break out of that. I want to be the friend that doesn't have any crutch words, or maybe a couple, but not as many as I do. So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do when you lose your train of thought? You keep going. That's what you keep doing, but you don't say and you know. And you most definitely don't say, you know what I mean. Whew, this is tough. So, this has been going on for a long time, and like I said, it does affect a lot of things. It affects your self-esteem. Well, I know it does for me. It affects my self-esteem because, like I said, sometimes I feel a bit inadequate as a conversationalist. And I want to be engaged more. I want people to engage with me more. I want to, and this is why anybody, a lot of people have said this, they want to be more interesting to people. And I completely understand that. I completely get that. Because there is nothing more boring than somebody that's speaking to you on some, oh yeah, and this is what I was going to say. Sorry, back on track. I'm a comedian. And what happens is I write down everything that I say. Everything that I say in any one of my acts, in any is always written down and rehearsed over and over and over and over and over and over again. I could do it in my sleep over and over again. So I don't really have to use any crutch words because everything has already been scripted out. And it's been rehearsed so much until it becomes natural. And that's what it's like doing stand-up comedy. It's like Groundhog's Day. Really, it's just you're doing your act. Unless you write new material all the time, it really is doing the same thing over and over and over again. Sorry to take the glamour off of it, fellas, but I guess people kind of know that anyway. It's not like we're magicians or anything like that. But when I'm on stage and I'm delivering my jokes, it's easy. How you doing, folks? Thank you for tuning in to the, whatever it is I'm going to do. See, crutch word, But see, that was me reaching for or trying to maintain my control over what I'm talking about. Me trying to make the connection to the next part of the conversation or the next part of my thought. When all I really probably would have to do is just pause. This is probably going to go down in history as the most boring podcast that you've ever listened to, folks. I'm sorry, but this is something that's important to me. And if you don't want to listen anymore, I understand. But if you're feeling what I'm saying, folks, lock it in with me. Let's do this together. Let's try and knock this out together. Let's try and see how many how long we can go. I think I've done pretty good this episode. Really, what I want to happen is I want somebody to count how many times I say or you know, and let me know how many times in this episode as opposed to other episodes. Because I've already made a concerted effort. I'm already making an effort. And not only am I making an effort, I don't really have any other topics other than this topic. This topic is very important to me. Now, I will talk about my wife because she was another person who noticed that there were a lot of crutch words in my vocabulary. It was just a lot of crutches, just a lot of long, just craziness. And you go back and listen to yourself and it sounds crazy, dumb, for lack of a better phrase. I sound like an idiot. So I can imagine how I must sound to some of you. So in my effort to make better content for you, I give you my solemn oath. I solemnly swear to try as hard as I can to give you more direct content, to be more informative and less vague or less prepared, even though I prepare relentlessly. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm going to try not to get ahead of myself, because that's what a lot of us do. We have a tendency to get ahead of ourselves. We are thinking 3 and 4 conversations down the line. We know what we want to say. We know what the other person is going to say to us. There's a lot going on all the time. But what happens is, even though you think you have control over what's going on in your head, you really don't. And it gets away from us. And it results in these crutch words. Now, I've been looking at some things. Let me pull up my iPad here, my trusty iPad. Now, I was reading an article by a guy his name is Noah Zandan, and the article was how to stop saying and you know. Now, I'm not going to really, steal his content. See what I did? I'm not going to steal his content. But what I will do is kind of not really paraphrase, but kind of round about what he's talking about, or some of the reasonings behind what people do, what people talk, how people talk. So let's get to it. Crutch words. So, right, well. The trouble with crutch words. Here it is. Okay. The problem with crutch words is this. You fail to get your message across effectively. That's one of the things that he said, and that's true. But also, what he did say that really kind of struck a chord with me is people want to believe that you are who you are naturally. That's like you are talking to them naturally, like they would expect you to talk in a conversation on television. Like, see, there it is again. Like, on television. If you watch a conversation on television, the person on TV almost never says or unless it's scripted, just like comedy. But that is how we perceive communication to be, or that's how we expect it to be between each other, between ourselves. Like, and a lot of times it is, but a lot of times it isn't, because, like I said, we all have crutch words that we use that we don't even know that we're using. It's wild business. One of the things that's kind of cool but scary at the same time that I'm experiencing right now as we're speaking is I'm swimming around in my head, fishing. Not really fishing, but looking around in my head for actually things to talk about. I've turned myself inward. I've turned into my own head. What are the things that I really want to talk about? Because if you're passionate about things, a lot of times you can articulate them a lot better. If you're not passionate, it's going to show. You're going to come off as fake. You're going to come off as uneducated. You're going to come off as dumb. And that's not cool because that may not be the case. I know for me, it's a lot to do with ADHD. That has a lot for a lot of people. That has to do with a lot for a lot of people. Like I said, quite frankly, just getting out in front of themselves. That's another one, by the way. That's a crutch phrase. Like I said, like I said, like I said. And other ones like not for nothing, not for nothing, not for nothing, not for nothing, not for nothing. Filler. No value. I want to give value. I want to add value to my conversation. I want to enrich my conversation so that I can enrich my content, so that I can enrich myself, so that I can help enrich you or the people that listen to my content. It has been brought to my attention that there are some listeners that are not in this country, and I want to say thank you for listening. I appreciate it wherever you are. I believe there's a lot of them in Africa. Hey, what's up? What's poppin'? And see, right there's another one, and they're so easy. And that's the thing. I want to call it out. I want to call it out because if you start calling it out, you start catching yourself. Eventually, you start learning how to wean off of it because it's a lot like that cigarette. When you stop smoking cigarettes, I don't care if you put a patch on. I don't care if you got a patch on with the gum. I don't care if you got the patch on, the gum, and you're taking Chantix. You're still going to want a cigarette from time to time. And you may slip up. And this is no different than that. But like I said, crutch phrase. This right here is an opportunity to change the way that you think. To change the way that you think, to slow yourself down for just a moment. Just a few minutes. Slow down and think about the things that you really want to say. Think about everything that you really want to say. Think about what you want to say to anybody. Is or you know what you want to say to somebody? Probably not. So why say these things? And in that phrase right there is where I will begin to change my ideology of these words. Do I want to say this to people? Do I want to say you know to everybody? I really don't. So then don't. And that's the lock and key. Click, click, clinkety clink. That is it right there for me to stop saying these things, is to positively reinforce myself, take my time, try and be as articulate as I can, and eventually one day I'll get comfortable. Now, a lot of times this happens to people when they're talking to themselves, and I'm talking to myself. There's nobody in here with me. It's just me, my computer, iPad, soundboard, keyboard. It's just me. There's nobody else in here. So I have to figure out not only how to talk to myself, but how to respond to myself. That's tough. There's a lot of dead space. There's a lot of pondering and contemplation. And if you're listening to something, you can't see me ponder. You can't see me concentrate. The only thing you're going to get is silence. Silence. I think it's crazy. I'm going to take a quick, fast break, and when I come back, we are going to continue with our subject today, which is crutch words. How we can stop saying them, how we can stop using them, where they come from, what's up with them. So stick around as we get to the bottom of it. You're listening to the Darren Harris Podcast. Come on back.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. When you turn to Rocket Mortgage, we can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so now is a great time to call 8338-ROCKET. And if you need some extra money, a cash-out refinance could give you that financial boost you're looking for. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030.
Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. I'm back. Had to go relieve myself for a couple of minutes, check on my wife, see what was popping. Today I'm talking about crutch words, how to get rid of them, what they are, where they come from, why we use them at all. Man, it's beyond me. It's really, really crazy because it's an epidemic. We all use them. They're everywhere. But I do think I have some pretty good tips on maybe how to stop based on being a comic. Some of the techniques and routines and things that we're taught as comedians could actually help you reduce these crutch words. When I first started doing comedy, I sucked. I sucked a lot. And it was every time I went on stage, I sucked. People told me, you suck. And I got tired of that. And another comic gave me an idea. And he said, why don't you record your voice? And I thought, what a brilliant idea. I don't know why it's brilliant, but it's kind of brilliant. And he went on to explain to me, if you can hear yourself, you can hear what other people hear when you're on stage. And that made so much sense. And so the next time I went on stage, I took my little tape recorder and I recorded my set. I had a 5-minute set. I remember. It was a 5-minute open mic set. And I got on stage and I got laughs from people while I was on stage, or so I thought. I was getting laughs, and I got some laughs. But when I went back and listened to the tape, like I said, I had 5 minutes. About 2 of those minutes were uhs, and you knows. So in that, where I thought I had 5 minutes of material, I only really had 3 minutes of material. Because and you knows, those aren't material. But because I recorded myself, I was able to hear, like my comedian friend told me, I was able to hear what other people in the audience heard. And I was like, wow. That's what everybody's hearing, huh? Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. So I went back to the drawing board, wrote some material, kept rehearsing it, and made sure that I knew it backwards and forwards before I took it anywhere. And once I got on stage and started telling it, what I noticed started happening is I started losing my train of thought. And because I was losing my train of thought in the moment, I started reaching for these crutch words. Oh yeah, my other joke. Oh yeah, this joke in between. And that is where I began to realize that there was an issue. But then listening to the tape, I also realized that I could stop this in my jokes on stage. It would be easy to stop because it really just takes rehearsal. And that is the same thing as now. It just takes rehearsal. Record yourself. If you're having problems with crutch words and you want to clean up your speech, you want to clean up your public speaking, anything that you do publicly, you want to be more articulate in conversations, you want to seem like you're more dynamic, more educated, which really isn't too far off, then this is it. Record yourself. Listen back to it. Count. When you come up on a problem, go back. Revert. Say it again. Slow down. Take a couple of minutes. Slow it down. Calm it down. Take a few minutes. Articulate what you want to say. It's okay to pause. It's okay to stop for a couple of seconds. It's okay to say, hold on a second. That's the one thing I really had to learn, is that it's okay to pause. It's okay to pause. I felt like everybody was going to get up and walk out if I didn't say something. And people get up and walk out if you're not funny. But if you're saying what you're supposed to be saying and you are captivating and you are dynamic, then people do. They hang on your every word as long as it's words and it's not babble or gibberish. I hope that this episode was helpful to some people. I know it was probably boring to some of the other ones who are listening, who probably want to hear about the Dope Shit Award or the Strain of the Week. But this is a very important topic to me, so I most definitely and absolutely had to do it. Keep checking up on me, because I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to continue to practice. I'm going to continue to record myself like I'm doing right now. But one thing I don't do after I do my podcast is I rarely go back and listen to them. But I think I'm going to start going back and listening to my podcast the way that I listen to my jokes, because what happened is when I started listening to myself, I got better. And that's what I want, ultimately. So, crutch word. All right, folks, that has been this week's episode of the Darren Harris Podcast. I might get back on the regular scheduled programming next week. Maybe. But I'm kind of just enjoying talking to you folks instead of having to dope shit it up every week. Although the Dope Shit Award is cool, though. I do like the Dope Shit Award. Yeah. I think that's going to do it, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Darren Harris Podcast. I really, 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 really appreciate you for sticking around and listening if you're still here with me. And I appreciate you for listening anyway. I want to thank my wife for being the most absolutely amazing wife anybody could ever want. She is super encouraging and super fine on top of that. I want to thank my mom. I want to thank my best friend. I want to thank my producer for giving me the platform and encouraging me to do this podcast. And again, and again, and again, once again, yes, I did say it again. I want to thank everyone who's listening. I appreciate you 100%. So in the meantime and in the in-between time, if you work your thing and I work mine, I'm going to cut out of here until next week, if that's all right. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.